She says you're special, but never calls you her boyfriend. You're not plan A, you're the emotional gauze wrapped around the wound he left. The Stoic response? No closure, no confrontation, just silence, sharper than betrayal. You're not losing her, you're losing the illusion she ever chose you first. You think she's loyal because she never cheated. But loyalty isn't absence of betrayal, it's presence of clarity. And she's never been clear with you. You think it's building toward love. She's just stalling until someone else replies. You take her late-night calls as intimacy. She takes them as boredom relief. You think you're her safe space. She sees you as a pit stop. And you've mistaken emotional leftovers for commitment. Modern dating rewards ambiguity, but Stoicism doesn't. Stoicism doesn't ask what she wants, it asks why you tolerate confusion. While you're wondering what the signals mean, she's keeping you warm in case plan A fails. And the longer you stay, the more silence you'll need to recover. Because when she finally leaves, it won't be a breakup. It'll be a reveal, a quiet, surgical exit that shows she was never really there to begin with. Sign 1. She shows up only when something else fails. When plans fall through. When the other guy doesn't answer. When boredom bites. Then she remembers you exist. You call it timing. She calls it backup. You think she misses you. She just hates being alone. And every time you say yes, she learns she can disappear and return without consequence. You think you're being patient. Stoicism calls it self-betrayal. Because silence used right is power. But silence used wrong is permission. And you've been giving her permission to keep you as an option while she auditions someone else. Sign 2. She gives you just enough affection to confuse you. Long voice notes at 2 a.m. I miss your energy. A kiss when she's sad. A hookup when she's drunk. Then nothing. Then cold. Then warm again. You think it's mixed signals. It's not. It's a signal you're not meant to read. You're a placeholder, a human pause button. When she's craving meaning, she comes to you. When she wants chaos, she goes to him. And you keep giving her peace she never earns. Stoicism doesn't wait for people to choose us. It teaches us to choose clarity over hope. Sign 3. There's connection, but no direction. She tells you her secrets but hides you from her world. You've seen her walls but never her family. You've met her dog but not her decisions. You plan weekends. She avoids planning months. She keeps things open, not because she's free-spirited, but because you're not the destination. You're the layover, and the longer you stay, the more your self-worth becomes tied to a maybe. Stoicism teaches, if someone won't define you, don't let them dissolve you. You think she's the manipulator. But what if you're the enabler? What if she's not using you? What if you've been using her to avoid your own loneliness? You call her inconsistent, but you answer every time. You call her distant, yet you never leave. Maybe you're not in love. Maybe you're addicted to not being rejected. Because if she finally says, I never loved you, it ends. But as long as she says nothing, you can pretend. That's not loyalty. That's emotional self-harm. Stoicism doesn't blame her. It holds you accountable for why you stay in what you claim to hate. And what if she was never confused? What if this was always her plan? Not evil, not calculated, just instinct. She kept you around because you stayed. Not because you mattered, because you didn't require clarity. She never promised you the future. You just assumed it. And she never said, I love you. You just filled in the silence with your hopes. Stoicism says, suffering begins the moment you assign meaning to someone's ambiguity. She didn't lie. You just interpreted her vagueness as progress. That's not love. That's illusion. So now what? Do you confront her? Do you demand answers? No. That's still giving her power. Stoicism doesn't chase closure, it creates distance. You don't need her explanation. You need your own decision. Because the real betrayal wasn't her treating you like plan B, it was you convincing yourself you were plan A, despite all the signs. You think being her backup was the worst thing. But what if it was the best thing that ever happened to you? Because being second forced you to ask, why were you never first in your own life? Why did you wait for her message but ignore your own purpose? Why did her silence hurt more than your own self-abandonment? You feared losing her, but what you should have feared was losing yourself in someone who never saw you. She was never the test. You were, and you failed every time you stayed hoping she'd wake up. Stoicism doesn't wait to be chosen. It chooses itself. Every single time. You wanted closure. But imagine if she had told you the truth from the start. You're just a maybe. Could you have handled it? No. Because then you'd have to admit you accepted crumbs and called it a feast. You stayed not because of love, but because hope is addictive. Hope makes silence feel romantic. It makes rejection feel mysterious. But Stoicism kills hope when it keeps you weak. It replaces it with action, with detachment, with a dignity so loud you don't need goodbye. So now you go quiet. Not because you're hurt, but because you're awake. Not to make her miss you, but to stop missing yourself. You walk, not because she lost value, but because you finally found yours. And when she comes back, because she will. What you say is simple: nothing. That silence? That's not revenge. That's rebirth. Stop texting first, not to punish her, but to feel the silence you've been avoiding. Block her if you must. Not because you hate her, but because your nervous system can't tell the difference between hope and anxiety. Don't unfriend. Don't post subliminals. Just vanish. Clean, cold, undebatable. That's how Stoics respond, not with rage, but with boundaries so final they need no explanation. You're not ghosting. You're grieving. You're not playing games. You're quitting one. And the moment she notices, she might chase. She might test. She might say she misses your energy. Don't answer. Because she doesn't miss you. She misses the control you gave her. Delete the screenshots. Burn the what if drafts. Don't wait for closure. Closure is a performance we write for people who were never listening. You don't need her apology to forgive yourself. You don't need her clarity to rebuild yours. A Stoic doesn't ask, why did she do this? A Stoic asks, why did I allow it? The hurt isn't hers. It's yours. And the healing? That starts the moment you stop needing her confusion to validate your pain. Pain is inevitable. Permission to stay in it is optional. So journal. But don't write about her. Write about how long you abandoned yourself waiting to feel chosen. Meditate, not to calm the ache, but to hear your mind without her noise. Breathe, not to forget her, but to finally remember who you were before her patterns taught you to doubt your worth. Because love shouldn't feel like guessing. And being plan B was never the problem. Staying there, that was. You thought strength was endurance. But Stoicism says strength is discernment, knowing when enough is enough. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, stay hopeful. He said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. You can't control if she changes. You can only control when you stop waiting. Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. You don't tell her you're done. You show it, in your absence. Your calm, your refusal to beg for what was never freely given. You reclaim your power not by speaking louder, but by needing less. Ask yourself, if love makes you anxious, is it love, or is it survival? If you feel more stable when she's gone, what exactly are you fighting to keep? This is the paradox. You crave the person who causes the pain, because they're also the only one who relieves it. That's not intimacy. That's addiction. And a Stoic doesn't feed addiction. A Stoic cuts the cycle. Cold, clean, once, and never again. Modern dating says, show her you care. Stoicism says, show her nothing that costs your peace. Modern dating says, make her choose you. Stoicism says, make her absence irrelevant. That's how you win, not with pride, but with presence, not with pressure, but with principle. You don't need to hate her. You just need to stop confusing connection with compatibility. She might have felt real, but pain also feels real. Doesn't mean you should keep holding it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the closer a man is to tranquility, the closer he is to strength. But you chased turbulence and called it passion. You called her distance, mystery. You called her neglect, freedom. You called your anxiety, chemistry. That's not Stoicism. That's delusion with better branding. A Stoic knows. Love is calm, not chaotic. And the moment it becomes confusing, it's no longer virtuous, it's performative. If she keeps you uncertain, she's not your partner. She's your mirror, reflecting the parts of you that still believe you must earn love to deserve it. Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. You imagined she'd come around. You imagined her silence was temporary. You imagined one more night would fix everything. Reality? She moved on the moment she sensed you'd stay. That's what happens when you offer certainty to someone who feeds on ambiguity. She doesn't need to block you. She needs you to linger. That's the cruelty of modern intimacy. You're never dumped. You're delayed, on read, on hold, out of sight, never out of orbit. Stoicism cuts orbit. It collapses the illusion of potential and demands truth. Epictetus taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. People will say you gave up too early, that you overreacted, that she just needed time. Let them speak. You're not here to win their approval. You're here to end your suffering. And sometimes, the bravest act isn't fighting for love. It's realizing it never existed the way you thought, and walking away without demanding a villain to blame. That's Stoic heartbreak. Clean, quiet, free. You thought the absence of rejection meant the presence of love. But silence isn't consent, and comfort isn't commitment. She stayed just enough to keep you guessing. Not because she was evil, because you never required clarity. Stoicism demands we define things. If it's not love, call it confusion. If it's not a bond, call it a pattern. If she doesn't choose you out loud, stop interpreting the silence as maybe. That's the disease of modern dating. Undefined emotions. Extended access. No responsibility. You want an answer? Then stop engaging with questions she refuses to ask. You assumed love was a feeling. Stoicism says it's a practice. You don't love someone by obsessing over their attention. You love them by respecting your own peace in their absence. If they don't show up consistently, it doesn't matter how deeply they once felt something. Epictetus would say, you are disturbed not by events, but by your interpretation of them. Her flirty texts at midnight weren't intimacy, they were impulse. Her warmth wasn't a return, it was regression. Her silence now? Not heartbreak, just data. Accept it without drama. That's freedom. That's power. That's Stoic love, never begging to stay where clarity won't. You didn't stay because she was everything. You stayed because you didn't believe anything better would come. You stayed because chasing pain was familiar. Because being second felt safer than facing the void of being alone. And Stoicism confronts that fear directly. It doesn't teach you to feel nothing. It teaches you to stop fearing the silence that follows truth. You don't heal by hoping she returns. You heal by realizing the only thing you ever truly lost was your own standard. There is a moment where love becomes loyalty to your own suffering. You're no longer in it for her. You're in it because leaving now would make you admit you wasted years on something imaginary. That's ego, not love. That's pride keeping you stuck in a game with no scoreboard. Seneca said, time discovers truth. But you've been fighting time. Rewriting memories, romanticizing neglect, holding on, not to her, but to a version of you that didn't know better. And now that you do, you don't chase, you don't explain, you don't perform closure rituals. You walk, quiet, full, final, because the longer you delay letting go, the more pieces of yourself you lose trying to hold on to someone who was never holding back. You didn't leave because she hurt you. You left because you finally saw who you were becoming to stay. You left because somewhere along the way, you stopped recognizing the man in the mirror. Not because of heartbreak, but because of erosion. Small compromises, quiet tolerances. You let things slide because you didn't want to seem needy. You stayed calm when you were clearly confused. You said, I understand, when you didn't. And in trying to be the stable one, you became invisible to her and to yourself. That's not love. That's spiritual anesthesia. Stoicism doesn't ask, did she love you? It asks, did you lose yourself trying to be lovable? Every time she came back, you told yourself it meant something. That the timing wasn't right. That she was scared. That maybe she just needed one more chance to see your worth. But you weren't waiting for her. You were stalling your own rebirth. Because if she's unsure, then you don't have to be alone. If she's inconsistent, then you don't have to admit this isn't going anywhere. She gave you hope, and you dressed it up as faith. But hope without truth is just denial with good lighting. And you stayed in it not because you believed in her, but because you were afraid to believe in anything else. That's the quiet tragedy. Not that she used you, but that you let that usage define your identity. Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, yet you kept trying to be the man she would finally want. What if you stopped shaping yourself for her taste, and started building yourself in your own image again? You kept asking, What if she changes? But Stoicism asks, what if she doesn't, and you still win anyway? By walking? What if you don't need to be chosen to be whole? What if this entire chapter wasn't about her at all, but about you finally waking up from your own fantasy? That's Stoicism, not the death of feeling, but the end of fantasy. The moment you stop needing someone else's approval to validate your depth. The moment you stop living on the contingency of someone else's attention. The moment you choose solitude over distortion, silence over false closeness, self-respect over delayed hope. That's when it breaks. That's when it burns. But also, that's when it finally ends. Not with drama, not with tears, but with breath, stillness, and a sentence that rewrites everything. She was never yours. And that's not the tragedy. That's the freedom. You kept asking, why didn't she choose me? But Stoicism teaches a better question. Why did you make her choice more important than your own? Love built on uncertainty isn't romance, it's roulette. And you've been spinning for far too long, mistaking emotional volatility for meaning. She wasn't the lesson, you were. And if you're honest, she never really lied to you. You just kept translating her silence into maybe. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." Freedom isn't found when she finally picks you. It's found when her indecision stops mattering. When your dignity becomes louder than your desire. When you stop making space for people who treat your presence as optional. That's Stoic power. Not in how loud you fight, but in how peacefully you withdraw from what no longer aligns. No final message, no explanation, just the truth, fully felt, then fully released. This wasn't about being heartless. This was about not being hostage. This was about reclaiming the life you postponed waiting for love that was never grounded. You can still miss her. You can still remember the warmth. But you don't have to return to the fire to prove you felt it. So here's your call, not to anger, not to revenge, but to sovereignty. Choose stillness over confusion. Choose clarity over craving. And most of all, choose yourself. Radically, unapologetically, stoically, not because you're better than her, but because you finally remember you were never meant to be chosen last in a story you're writing. She was a chapter, but you are the author. Turn the page.